Hi there, this is the Euwe Trap for black in the Gruenfeld, and it charts the course of the game, albeit in a different sequence of moves. Bogoljubov against Euwe, 1928, in the first Fide championships. And Max Euwe, of course, was former world champion. We start with d4, and after knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3, and d5, the first three moves of the Gruenfeld defense. Instead of capturing immediately on d5, white defers the capture by one move and plays knight f3. Bishop g7 now is met with the capture c takes d5 and knight takes d5 by black. Usually white will push the e-pawn in the center and hit the knight, but here we're looking at the fianchetto variation with g3. Black then castles, and after bishop g2, the all-familiar c5 pawn push by black in order to loosen up that diagonal for the all-important Gruenfeld bishop on g7. So after c5, white castles, and here black will usually play c takes on d4, but also perfectly playable and popular is knight takes on c3, which we're looking at now. The recapture with b takes c3 is met by knight c6 with more pressure on the pawn on d4. So e3 defends it. Black brings out the queen with tempo, queen a5, hitting c3, which is defended by queen b3. Queen b3 means that the b7 pawn is being looked at, and that means the bishop can't come out. So rook b8 will cover the b pawn. And now in this position, the most natural move is obviously bishop d2, developing a piece and potentially targeting the queen, but it's not the best. The best would probably be knight back to d2, releasing the bishop on g2, which is targeting the knight on c6 because of b takes c6, queen takes on b8. Also the knight on d2 in some variations might be heading to important squares such as c4. Another good try by white might have been bishop a3, which looks down that a3 f8 diagonal with a couple of pawns along the way. So that could have been quite interesting. Instead, bishop d2 was played, and now black proceeds with bishop g4. Bishop g4 hits the knight on f3. The knight on f3 is covering the bishop on d2, which means if bishop takes the knight, and then after the recapture c takes on d4, white won't be able to play c takes d4, the natural recapture, because the bishop on d2 will be loose. So that's going to be covered by rook a d1, and now black plays c takes on d4, and this is where white goes wrong and plays the losing move. White should in fact take back with the e-pawn and not the natural retake with c takes on d4, because after c takes on d4, the old switcheroo as the queen moves over to the king side, supporting the bishop, which is hitting the knight on f3, which is pinned to the rook on d1, and here white is losing material and will probably go on to lose the game. Interesting to note that the other capture, e takes on d4, doesn't work now for black, because queen h5, it appears to do exactly the same. However, the knight now is free to jump to the g5 square because it's now covered by the bishop, since the pawn on h3 has moved out the way, on e3 has moved out of the way. And then if black would continue with bishop takes on d1 and rook takes on d1, winning material, the thing is the queen isn't too comfortable there on h5, and it's pretty hard for her to make any progress and get out, and in fact the position here is more or less equal. So that would have been white's best continuation. In any case, this has been the Euwe Trap for black in the Gruenfeld. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.